Alright, so it's Dungeon Week in Destiny 2. Coming up this weekend, on the 13th of December, the Equilibrium Dungeon will launch, and that'll be at the Daily Reset on a Saturday. So, as always, there will be a 48-hour contest period, with the dungeon this time being part of Renegades itself, so we don't require a dungeon key, and this is indeed part of the expansion. It also appears that this dungeon could be a significant part of the story for Renegades overall. And additionally, of course, it contains juicy loot. That includes one of 3 exotic weapons that we actually get in this update, the Heirloom Combat Bow. Bungie provide a juicy press image for the weapon right here. One of the differences this time around with this piece of content is that Bungie have actually gone ahead and previewed a bunch of the rewards for it, so you can give me your opinion as to whether that's a good thing or not down in the comment section. I have seen some folks angry at content creators and media for actually revealing these things. Just keep in mind that's Bungie's decision. But yes, I would agree generally, it's nice to have at least a few secrets in the game. Maybe Bungie went a step too far this time with the early previews, but nonetheless, here we are. Before Renegades came out, there was some confusion and speculation really as to whether the Praxic Blade would be the dungeon exotic. Fortunately, that hasn't been the case because it's allowed us to play with the thing for longer and for more players to actually pick it up. Of course, we will be able to get the Taken Crystal from the Equilibrium dungeon if you're after a darker look for your Praxic Blade. There will also be other upgrades for the Praxic Blade found in the dungeon, such as Offensive Form, one of the forms where landing 3 melee or throw attacks grants ammo for the weapon, and it increases damage against bosses and vehicles. In addition to that, we'll also be able to get the Invigorating Blade focus mod, where the charge rate is increased, as is the guard resistance. And then we will also get the Gyro Core, where throw damage from the weapon applies elemental effects. And very finally, one of the catalyst upgrades, Energy Conduit, which grants health regen based on the number of targets hit by the thrown sword. So there'll be a handful of sandbox elements available for the Praxic Blade if you want to hunt them down in the dungeon as well. Otherwise, Heirloom itself, as we can see right here, is a new exotic combat bow with Bolt Thrower, where the weapon fires high-powered explosive bolts, which is strong against unstoppable champions. It additionally has Big Game Hunter, where we can aim down sights for a period of time to overcharge the next bolt fired, and this increases damage and AoE for each charge level. Kind of reminds me of Whirling Ovation, with the element of charging the weapon up to get more damage. Full credit to Datto for giving us our opinion on these exotics. I'll link Datto's exotic weapon preview video down below. As we can see though, Heirloom has a cool ADS overlay, and you can simply go ahead and fire the weapon, or indeed charge it up. Keep in mind this is still a heat weapon, like other blasters that we've had in Renegades. It also gets a catalyst where direct hits with charged shots will scorch the target, and the weapon deals more damage against scorched targets. So it's kind of cool. In a way, it's not a very flashy exotic, but in terms of power, it could certainly have some utility. Completing the dungeon on contest difficulty will guarantee this as a drop, which is nice if you can do it, but of course most of us will rely on getting random drops of this thing. So give us your impressions about that down below. Otherwise, the game post rounded up the legendary weapon pool for the dungeon. This time around, on top of the exotic, we get 6 legendary weapons, as well as the armor set that we saw in the trailer. First of the legendaries is Zealous Ideal, a solar balanced auto rifle. So again, they are blaster-style heat weapons, and in terms of perks, this can get Cooling Baubles, Delicate Tuning, Heal Clip, Zen Moment, Gutshot Straight, Attrition Orbs, and Dynamic Sway Reduction in the first slot, with the second slot featuring Thermal Atomization, Onslaught, Adagio, One for All, Tap the Trigger, Burning Ambition, and Incandescent. So it's one of our kind of typical modern solar automatic weapons. Next up though, there is Bitter End, which reminded us of Sweet Business of course, with it being this kind of Tommy gun style thing. It's a balanced arc machine gun, the rate of fire is 900. In terms of perks, it can get Cooling Baubles, Delicate Tuning, Attrition Orbs, Trickle Charge, Gutshot Straight, Eddy Current, and Hipfire Grip. Then the second slot can roll Thermal Atomization, Jolting Feedback, Rolling Storm, Killing Tally, One for All, Frenzy, and Offhand Strike. So it's a really cool looking weapon, nice to have some of the arc abilities on there. Of course not quite Sweet Business, but still pretty neat. Additionally, there is the High Tyrant, which is a balanced pulse rifle. Comes with void damage, this is a 540 RPM weapon. First trait slot again, can get Cooling Baubles, Delicate Tuning, Destabilizing Rounds, Repulsor Brace, Loose Change, Rapid Hit, and Demolitionist, which can pair up with Thermal Atomization, Master of Arms, Headseeker, and then Frenzy, Withering Gaze, Demoralize, and Mega Neura, which of course is returning as a general weapon trait as opposed to just a pinnacle trait. So that could be pretty strong to be fair. Of course, the perk pools on these will be reminiscent of each other, with them being heat weapons. We do see a lot of duplicate perks because there's only a relatively small pool of unique heat weapon perks. But other weapons include Voltaic Shade, a balanced arc scout rifle. They all still have the strong kind of Star Wars blaster theme and visual style as well. This can get cooling baubles, delicate tuning, jolting feedback, trickle charge, rapid hit, shoot to loot, and keep away in the first trade slot, with thermal atomization, alongside Volt Shot, Rolling Storm, Frenzy, Precision Instrument, Desperate Measures, and Mega Nora in the second trade slot. There'll also be a new sniper called Conspiracy Honed. It's a dynamic stasis sniper, where perks in the first slot are Cooling Baubles, Delicate Tuning, Lone Wolf, Vorpal Weapon, then there's Headstone, Snapshot, and Enlightened Action, with the second slot rolling Thermal Atomization, Box Breathing, Opening Shot, Firefly, Bait and Switch, Firing Line, and Moving Target. The last of the unique legendaries, though, is the new sword, the Sullen Claw, which is a lightweight void sword. First trade slot can get Eager Edge, Proximity Power, Vorpal Weapon, Relentless Strikes, Repulsor Brace, Flash Counter, and Impromptu Ammunition, with the second slot rolling Binary Orbit, Destabilizing Rounds, Sword Logic, Bait and Switch, Whirling Blade, Assassin's Blade, and Counterattack. And for the origin trait for all of the dungeon weapons, we have Imperial Allegiance, where being near allies grants further increased cooling or charge rate and increased damage while at high heat or low guard energy. So that could be a pretty decent perk. In terms of the rest of the loot pool, obviously, we can expect potentially some cosmetic things, additional items, the title, and, of course, the armor set. I'm not aware of what the armor set bonus actually is. As far as I'm aware yet, it hasn't been revealed. If I'm wrong on that, let me know in the comments, but it does appear that there will be an attunement component in the dungeon, which will eventually unlock to allow us to target weapons and gear more specifically. And otherwise, that piece of content will additionally house the Taking Crystal, as well as one of the catalysts for the Praxic Blade, and a couple of its other mods. So in terms of reward, that is what we can expect from Equilibrium. Stay tuned in the next day or so as well, as I'm sure Bungie will have a disabled items list for that dungeon, as well as some other heads up. Just additionally keep in mind that there will be a quest we can pick up from Orna in the Cantina, which essentially grants us access to that dungeon. So if you're jumping in on the weekend, you'll need to get that quest first, and then we can get it going. So share your thoughts on the loot down below. If you enjoyed the video, a rating very much helps us out. Once again, credit to all of the sources linked in the description box, but otherwise I appreciate you tuning in today, and I will catch you all very soon.
Everything you've shown me, I've made real. I've marshaled a new Imperium to snuff out the light. My violence is yours. You know what comes next. Give me strength.